Hi, welcome to this 15-minute class on bridges. So we're going to roll down, and bridges are basically that our body is going to create a bridge between our feet and our shoulders. So our core has to work. That'll be your back muscles, your glute muscles, your stomach muscles. So when we bridge up, which we're going to do straight away here, you want to feel that strength and that kind of literally like a bridge, like you could drive over the middle of your body. So your glute muscles are engaging, your stomach muscles are engaging, your obliques are engaging, your back muscles are engaging, and obviously your thighs and your legs are engaging a little bit. And we hold that. See if you can feel all those muscles and come back down. Now I want you to actually do a bridge wrong, and by that feel what could go wrong. So we're going to kind of just check that we're not doing any of these things by doing them. We're going to drop one hip. So sometimes when we bridge, one side of our bum is not as strong or not as engaged, and therefore we have a crooked hip situation. So if you can squeeze that bum back up again and then drop the other side so you can feel. Now sometimes when you just do one of these each side, you'll then have evened that out because you've told your body you want to engage both sides. The other thing that can happen is that we go too deep into the lower back. So I want you to push up your lower back here, and you'll start to feel just a little bit of tightness in the lower back. You don't want to have that during a bridge. So you're going to drop that back down again, and instead of squeezing up your lower back, you're going to tuck your tailbone into between your legs or into between your back of your knees direction, and you're going to bridge higher that way. And that should immediately take the pressure out of your lower back. We'll come back down for a moment just to reset so we can do some other bits and pieces. We don't want it to be all thighs. You want it to be your bum lifting you up. So when you start lifting, before you ever come off the floor, squeeze your bum. So in this position, you're going to drive your heels into the floor. You're going to squeeze your bum, and you're going to kind of hover your body like a millimeter off the floor. Should be really hard work, by the way. You're just hovering here. You're squeezing your bum to do so. Drop back down again. We're going to do that a couple of times. We're going to press your whole foot into the floor, and you're going to squeeze your bum. You're going to just hover for a moment. If you can't feel one side of your bum, engage that side a bit more. Start by engaging that side. So we're going to do that and then bridge up from this one. So you're going to press into your feet, squeeze your bum, and then bridge up the rest of the way. Check you haven't gone into your lower back. Check your hips are even. And take a breath in here and land back down again. Now we want to have the hamstrings a little bit engaged. Again, that you're not over engaging the front of the legs. So you're going to do that same bridge again. Squeeze the bum. Hover off the floor a tiny bit, finish up your bridge, and then you're going to dig your heels in. If you want, you can lift your toes a little bit here. Dig your heels in and engage even more at the back of the legs. Take a breath in and come back down. Now, last but not least, we're going to check the position of our chest or rib cage. So you're going to bridge back up with all those things in mind, that little hover, which you can all do that faster as you go along. And then as we're at the top here, I'm going to check that we're not pushing the ribs up to the ceiling. So to check, I'm going to get you to push your ribs up to the ceiling. You'll start to feel this kind of in your mid-back. You don't want to feel it there. You're going to drop your ribs back down to the floor. Keep dropping them to the floor. You cannot drop them really too far to the floor because they won't go any further as long as your hips stay up here. In order to drop them further down, your hip would have to drop. So if you squeeze your bum as hard as you can and you drop your ribs all the way back down to the floor, you're going to be in a straight line. So you're going to hold that position. If you're not sure, you can push your ribs back up again and drop them back down to the floor. So doing the movement wrong is not necessarily a problem, but you don't want to be in that position if you're doing a harder version of a bridge. So hold that for another moment and come back down. Now we're going to add another little bit to that, and that is as we come down, we're going to keep our bum squeezed. So you're going to take a breath in. You're going to bridge up on the exhale. Check all those points, hips, ribs, hamstrings, connections to everywhere. And then as you're going down, you're going to squeeze your bum. Squeeze your bum, go down quite slowly. Squeeze your bum as you go down, squeeze your bum, squeeze your bum, squeeze your bum. And then when you land on the floor, you're back to this hover position from earlier. Let everything relax. At no point are we bending our lower back. Now we're going to check we've engaged our stomach muscles. So before we lift, when we do that little hover, have your stomach muscles firmly engaged. So come up into that little hover, squeeze your bum, squeeze your stomach muscles, and then continue squeezing those as you lift up. And then continue squeezing those as you lower back down again. When you do that lower back down with a squeezed bum, you should feel kind of a separation between your leg and your bum. Like you know where your bum finishes and your leg starts, your hamstring starts. And it can be quite a nice movement for the hamstring because it means your hamstring isn't gripping. What sometimes happens is we tuck into the hamstring and we get very caught up at the back of this hamstring and you might end up cramping there. That's what we're trying to avoid because we want to use the glutes more. So breath in, that little hover off the mat. Really pull. Now you're already pulling the ribs back down to the mat here, so your ribs haven't lifted. You can practice that part here as well. Pull your ribs back to the ground, keep your bum lifted. Get those stomach muscles as like a little plank basically with on your back. And then on the exhale, lift all the way to the top. Don't lose that connection. Tuck the tailbone a tiny bit more and then keep the bum squeezed. If you're kind of shaking through your legs, then you're doing it right. So you're kind of like shaking a bit side to side, that's fine. And then keep the bum squeezed, keep the stomach muscles engaged. You can check that as you're at the bottom here, so you're not gone all soft and relaxed in your stomach yet until you land. Now, when you land, I want you to relax because it's important to relax in between movements. And then with the exhale, that little hover, we're going to exaggerate that a bit because we're going to do more stuff with the glute bridge. And then lift all the way up to the top. Check all your points. Ribs are not pushed up. Hips are pushed up. Glutes are engaged. You're driving your heels into the floor. Breath in. Lower back down. Now we're going to take a leg away. So we're going to come back to our little hover. Lift up. And then once we're at the top, choose your side obviously, all you're going to do is pick up the foot a tiny bit and set it back down. Now, a tiny bit is actually harder sometimes than a lot. So you're going to make sure nothing shifts. So you can have your hands on your hip if you want to. You're going to pick one knee up a tiny bit or one foot up a tiny bit. You're going to march very slowly and carefully back and forth between the two sides. Now you don't want your ribs to start popping. You don't want your hips to start sinking. You don't want your hamstrings to start over firing. We're going to come back down. The second one, we're going to lift the knee higher. So when the knee goes higher, it's even easier to drop your hip down. So you're going to watch for making sure that you're not dropping your hip down. Exhale as we come up. Breath in at the top. We're going to lift the knee directly over the hip and set it back down. Now take your time setting it down because you want to make sure you've secured that other side before you lift up the other leg. Exhale. So your bridge is rock solid here in the middle. That's what we're working towards. And then you're just marching your feet. You can do this slower or faster than me, that's fine. Exhale. You don't really want to be using your arms too much here. Come back to that in a minute as well. Exhale as we march. And set everything back down. Now when you're marching, you will use your arms a little. I get you to take your arms away and you're going to bridge up. Do exactly the normal bridge, no marching legs for now. But I want you to see if you can feel that that's even harder to control when your hands are not on the floor. As I said, when you've got the legs in the air, sometimes it's better to have the hands down because you can help support everything a little. But for this, we're just going to bridge up and down a few times. Exhale as we go. Breath in at the top. And lower back down. So keeping all that in mind, ribs are pulled in, especially when your arms are up here, sometimes that changes how we feel our body. We might find ourselves pushing a bit through the chest because of it, or we might find it actually helps us to drop our chest down. So arms can work both ways. Keep the glute squeeze at the top. Now we've done quite a few, so if you're now starting to feel like the hamstring on one side or the hamstring on the other side, it's worth being aware of. We'll do a slightly different version of the leg lift. We're going to have the 1 foot sort of healer or whatever part of your leg you can on top of that other knee, and you're going to bridge up. Now, sometimes that's an easier version of the bridge because you don't have to control that leg as much, but you are coming up and down without the foot on the floor in the first place. You're doing a 1 leg bridge from the word go. Exhale as we lift. So again, we're going to double check that we haven't lost any of the form because form is more important than being able to do this 1 leg. You could do this 1 leg really badly and then you end up with pain in your lower back, and that sort of defeats the purpose of a bridge. So tucking the tailbone in. obviously just on the one side. The other side, your stomach muscles are going to work way harder because they're going to have to hold up this hip and stop it from dropping down. So you're going to work really hard to create a crossover connection here between my right hip and my left side. And then come back down. Let's do one more on that leg. And if you ever feel you need to switch legs earlier, you can do so. Or you can take a little breather if you need to. So it's better to take a breather if you've lost form than to try and do one more with really bad form. So if you can do two or three or four with good form, then do that many. Exhale as we bridge up. And if you can do more, obviously do more. That's okay too. Breath in and back down. Exhale. That little hover, squeeze from the bum and lift up. Now we'd like to have fairly even lift up so we're not kind of wobbling side to side too much, as there's a little bit of a wobble sometimes on the way down when that glute is squeezed. But your direction of push is always directly up. Breath in. Hold that. Spread the foot for a good connection to the floor. And we do one more. Breath out. Pull the ribs to the floor. Squeeze the bum into that little hover. Squeeze the bum some more. Connect to this opposite side of your stomach. And get that to hold across like a little seat belt. Breath in. And lower back down again. Steph, we'll let that leg come up, off even, and we'll go back up again. Now we've got more of a moving leg going on, so we're going to go back to the other leg. Exhale as we bridge up. You're going to take that knee into its bend. You're going to straighten the leg up, and then you're going to flex the foot and drive that heel down to the floor. Don't drop anything here. And then you're going to point the toe, come back, or sorry, bend the knee, come back up, point the toe to go up, flex the heel, and drop the heel towards the floor. Bend the knee in, point the toe, flex the heel, flexed heel goes to the floor. Don't drop the hip. Bring the knee back up and set the foot down. So we've done about 3 of those on one side. We're going to switch sides. Do come down in between. Pull the ribs in. That little hover. Bridge up the rest of the way. Hold that position. Relax the shoulders and arms. Keeps the ribs engaged. Exhale to lift the knee. Point the toe to go up. Flex the heel to bring that down. Don't drop this hip with that. Knee bends in. Pointed toe goes up. Flexed heel goes down. Bend the knee back in. Pointed toe goes up. Flexed heel goes down. Bend the knee back up and set the foot to the floor. We should still be at the same height we started off at. We'll drop back down. We've got one more round of that on either side to finish up here. Exhale as we lift. Or however a difficult version of this you can do. So if you need to do a slightly easier version, you can. You can avoid putting the foot all the way to the floor, for instance. You can go back and do any of the versions we've already done. So bend the knee in, bridge up a little bit more, point the toe, bridge up a little bit more, flex the heel, hold that bridge, don't drop that hip down, let the leg go away from the hip, not the other way around. So it's a nice little stretch for those quads. Flex the heel on the way down, bend the knee back in, point the toe to go up, flex the heel to go down, don't drop that hip, squeeze the bum to hold that hip up, bend the knee in, set the foot down. We'll set down in between, breath in, breath out as we bridge up. You can have your hands here on the hips, or if you have a mirror to check this in, bend the knee, check we haven't dropped the hip, point the toe, flex the foot, especially as that foot goes down. Now, you might not get all the way to the floor because we have a tight hip flexor, for instance. So you go as far to the floor there as you can. Point the toe, flex the heel, make our way down, bend the knee back in, point the toe, keeping those hips up here, flex the heel down, bend in the knee, and set the foot back to the floor. Hold that position for a moment and lower back down again. Lovely stuff. We'll bring those knees in for a little hug, or however you want to finish up here. Take a nice deep breath into the back of the body. Relax the stomach muscles. If you feel you need to stretch the hamstrings a little bit or the hips a little bit, you can pull your knees up to you. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one.